Hi, my name is Sharon Coleman. I am the host of the Rejection show, how to finally overcome your perfectionism and get shit done. And I am here today with Stacey Harmon.
Hello.
Stacey helps thousands of people every year to solve their productivity problems using Evernote through her teaching and coaching programs. Her superpower is organizing, and she is on a mission to show others how to create the freedom, space, and control in life that results from getting digitally organized. So hello, Stacey. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I can't wait to pick your brain. So I was actually on Evernote, like right before we got on this call. I'm a newbie on Evernote. I used it years ago, ran into some tech problems and got really mad at them and never wanted to touch them again. But I've just adopted them again. So I'm really looking forward to picking your brain. I understand that you train in David Allen's Get Things Done.
Mm-hmm.
So for those who aren't familiar with that, can you give us a brief overview on that system and how it works?
Sure. So just to clarify a couple of things, I'm actually an Evernote certified consultant, so I train on Evernote, but what I do personally is what I tend to teach, and I'm a GTD practitioner, and GTD is a productivity methodology, a personal productivity like methodology and philosophy that David Allen put out into the world in his best-selling book, Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity, that he wrote and launched initially in 2002. He revised it in 2015, which is kind of a more contemporary edition, but the principles are the same. And really what he talks about is that your mind, his core statement is, your mind is a great place to have ideas, a terrible place to hold them. So in order to be productive, you have to have a trusted system outside your brain in order to allow the thoughts you have and the inputs that you get that create things that you want to keep, that you want to take action on, that you might want to tackle someday later. Those all have to be captured in this trusted is a key word, system outside your brain, so that your brain can do what it does best, which is to solve problems, to think, to enjoy life, have all of these different ideas. So that I'm a massive follower. I think if you do what David says, you have solved the stress and overwhelm that comes with productivity. And the tagline of his book, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity, is a reality in my world as when I adhere to what he teaches. So I show people how to use Evernote, which is just one of the tools you can use for GTD. I show people how I organize and structure GTD in Evernote. That's one of the products that I have. I call it Everdone. And it really is just a kind of an organizational structure and a methodology for how you would manage it on an ongoing basis.
Would you be willing to sort of give us a breakdown real quick on how you structure it?
Yeah, so it basically follows the, well, let me just clarify this, and this is universal whether people are interested in GTD or not. Evernote users, when they are first starting out, when they're in your position, right? When they're coming back to the platform, your story is really typical. People download it, they don't know what to do with it. It's very flexible. It's a blank slate. I call that job security personally, because I help people understand how to best organize it. And you kind of hit at a foundational question, which will help me to answer the question that you really asked me, which is, how do I organize Evernote? And at the basis of your Evernote usage, you need to make a foundational decision. And you need to decide, am I going to organize Evernote with notebooks or tags? Okay, so Evernote has 4 basic organizational tools: notebooks, stacks, notes, and tags. And you can organize however you want. It's immensely flexible, which is kind of where people get into trouble. So you have to pick, and there tends to be 2 camps. You're either organized with notebooks or you organize with tags. And there's not a right or wrong. Let me just state that. However, I can tell you that you can have success with both, and I am a fan of organizing with all the tools. However, a key takeaway from this conversation for anyone, whether they're interested in GTD or not, is I would start by organizing with notebooks, not tags. Okay.
Mhm.
I perceive, I teach that it's actually easier for our mental capacity and clarity to have the analogy to that offline manila folder, which is a project notebook where you're used to stuffing papers in.
Mhm.
Let's just take that analogy and put it online. It also really sets you up with Evernote in the future, should you decide to become a power user, to fully capitalize on all of the features that they offer, such as the sharing capacities. You can share all the contents of a notebook. You can't do a tag search and then share all those notes. So it's not something you're going to start with right away, but it's like prepping you for future success, and it's going to help you immediately. Now, I do use tags. Are just an extra layer of organization atop of my notebook organization. And so I would say start with notebooks. Don't be shy to create notebooks. Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to create too many notebooks. You can have up to 1,000 notebooks in your account. And if you follow David's philosophy, where you create one notebook for all of your active projects, most people have about an average of 50 projects going on at any one time. And that leaves you plenty of archive space for, a bunch of other notebooks. So notebook-based approach to your organization with Evernote. I actually have a whole blog post that I can share with you called Why Michael Hyatt is Wrong About Organizing Evernote with Tags.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I didn't get to read the blog post, but I saw the title and I'm like, oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, and Michael Hyatt, I respect him so very much. He's a great productivity coach and leader. And he actually was really gracious in retweeting my article and said, well, she's got a few points here. And I'm looking at how I organize my account. And Evernote reposted the blog on their site too. So it goes to say that you could read Michael's article, which is linked to in mine, which is a tag-based approach, and you could read mine, which is a notebook-based approach, and you should make your own decision. But if you're just starting out, I'm telling you, it's easier to just go with notebooks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And go from there. So back to your question, my GTD deployment is a notebook-based approach, and then we organize within stacks, which are another level of organizational tool in Evernote. A stack.
So is that like a pile of notebooks?
Yes. So it's like the filing drawer for all the manila folders, right? So that's the analogy. And those stacks are organized around context, which is another core tenet of David's philosophy. So you should be organizing your action items around the contexts that are relevant to your life. And some common, like here's a good example. I can't buy groceries if I'm sitting at home. So it shouldn't
apps now, but
yeah. Oh, you're so right. Okay, so
because I'm switching to never going to the grocery store again.
Yeah, you're right. And by the way, it's fabulous. It's totally fabulous. Okay, let me change my example. I'm recondoing my house and I'm getting rid of everything that doesn't bring me joy. And I need to take that clothing to Goodwill and get rid of it. Okay. I can't do that. And I don't need to commingle that action of running that errand next to all of my daily business tasks that I have to be sitting at my computer to do. So organizing around context is a key tenet of what David teaches, and it's part of how I structure my work in Everdone. The other is a difference between status, which is it a current and active project? Is it on my radar versus is it a reference item and just a filing cabinet issue? A lot of people use Evernote really successfully as a digital dumping ground and a digital repository. It's a great use case for it. I just use it as so much more. That's only one area of what I use it for. It's also my task manager, my project manager, and my process manager. So projects and processes are different beings a little bit, but they can all be handled within the Evernote software.
So I have a question. So you said that you use the notebooks, and then you add another layer of tagging. How do you go about doing that?
So it's really specific to certain workflows. I use it in my tax workflow. I centralize 100% of the receipts that I use in my life in Evernote. In fact, that was the very first workflow that got me hooked on Evernote, was the centralization and the financial like pre-accounting that I do that Evernote kind of helps me with and really enables me. It alleviated a huge problem for me when I became self-employed. I was so stressed about the deductions I was missing, when to pay my taxes, did I have all my receipts? It was taking so much time to prep for my accountant, all that kind of stuff. And as soon as I figured out, oh, I can digitize it, and more important, I can find it, because Evernote indexes everything, including images and at the premium level, PDFs that you put into Evernote. So if I'm looking at my bank and I'm like, what was that charge? Like, it's got, you know how they have like that random name on them, but it's like, it's $9.73. I can just do a search for $9.73 in Evernote, and boom, my receipt comes up. And I'm able to digitize from my phone effortlessly. Like, that changed everything. And
it's like a picture.
You take a picture using the camera that's within the Evernote app, or even better, if you are on iOS, Evernote has a dedicated scanning app called Scannable. And it obviously, because Evernote owns and develops it, it integrates beautifully with Evernote, right? It's the same functionality as the Evernote camera. So I'm often asked, well, why do you use that instead? I use it because it's really one click quicker. It opens right to the camera. And part of the philosophy that I teach, and what people who are my ongoing customers start to recognize, is it's these shaving off these microseconds in all of these little activities that we do adds up to a lot of saved time. So Scannable gives me a shortcut to getting that information digitized, but that functionality is built into, the scanning functionality is built into the camera that's in the Evernote app on both Android and iOS.
Nice.
Okay. I think I deviated though from your question, because what happened is this solved this whole problem for me. Now I'm centralized. And so now all I had to do was share a notebook. We talked about how I can't share tags, but I can share a notebook with my CPA, who, by the way, is not an Evernote user, but I was able to share it regardless, because that's one of the most underutilized features of Evernote is their sharing capacity. But tags are one of the ways I use tags there. So I'm a little type A, I will freely admit.
A lot of us on this are a little type A.
Okay, I'm a little type A. But I care to track, and I'm also self-employed. I'm a solopreneur. Okay, so my business structure is part of what deals with this. So when I make revenue and I have expenses, even if it's a personal expense, that impacts everything for me. I'm interested in tracking how much I'm spending personally and professionally. So I'm centralizing both personal and professional receipts. And then I have a process, and I actually outline this process in an entire course I have called Trauma-Free Taxes. And it really is designed to quickly centralize using scanning methods, and then you or someone you outsource to goes through a renaming and sorting process, and part of that is tagging. Is it a business expense? Is it a personal expense? And so that tag provides a function that allows us to find and quickly move notes within Evernote.
Yes, I saw that on your website too, and I'm like, okay, I've got about 5 people I'm sending to that course.
Yeah, and I'm going to be teaching it again in the 4th quarter. So I've taught it twice this year, and then I do it where it's going to be a self-paced course, but then there's office hours with me during the 4-week period, so you guys can take the class and then get your questions answered along the way, and you're held accountable for getting it done in a period of time. It's another strategy, which I'm sure you'll talk about much during the summit, but I mean, time blocking and getting into groups that hold you accountable are great tips for actually doing it.
Accountability is huge. It's absolutely huge. With both get things done and then the system with Evernote on how to use it, how do you adhere to it? Because I've tried get things done. I've tried Evernote. That was a fail. But I've tried it, get things done with paper and all those other things. And I think maybe I'm a little ADD. If it's not in front of me, I forget all about it. So how do you get yourself to, because so for David Allen's system, things are tucked away in folders. I probably have folders that are 20 years old that I've never looked at because it's tucked away and out of sight, out of mind.
Well, his system's about really understanding everything that's on your plate so that you can make decisions about what you need to focus on now.
Mhm.
And then that's the stuff that should be in front of you. And your tool, whatever you choose, should make it easy for you to elevate that information to your radar. I would like to actually answer your question a slightly different way, because I think the real challenge that I hear from most of my customers and people who are interested in what I teach is not specifically that. It's that our data, in particular our data, it does apply to physical stuff too, but our data is so fragmented that we can't find what we're looking for when we need it. So what I have found is that and this is David Allen, another one of his principles is you need a inbox, and you need as few of inboxes as possible, ideally one. That would have to be in kind of like a paper-based format. But in my world, I have 2 inboxes. A physical inbox, it's right here on a shelf above me, where I put papers and then I batch scan them, and all of that goes into my ultimate inbox, which is Evernote. Because what Evernote is if you can digitize it, Evernote can hold it, Evernote can display it, and Evernote can search, find, and retrieve it. So they OCR index everything that you put in there, including handwriting. So I don't care if it's on my radar or not. I rely on search if I decide I need it, because what might be on my radar in one moment could change and take a total left turn in half an hour. What I've done is, my habit is to centralize in Evernote using all the methods that they allow me, and then knowing the how to and that it works, search in Evernote. I keep 30,000 plus notes in Evernote. And within a minute, I can find what I'm looking for almost without fail. I just had a customer say something similar in my inside my Everdone community yesterday. She's like, I'm constantly amazed how I have 20,000 notes and I can still find what I'm looking for. So it's not about having it all visible. It's about my mind remembers that I retained that somewhere, and now I can search for it, and I know I only have to search in Evernote, versus, is that in Drive? Is that on my downloads folder? Is it on my computer desktop? Is it, where is it in Evernote? I'm not really sure. Oh, maybe it's in my email. Like when you have those concerns, there's a centralization issue that's impacting your productivity. And by the way, the research shows that we spend 20% of our work week wasting time looking for things. And so I'm constantly trying to help people chip away at that by maximizing the opportunities that Evernote has to centralize and find digital data. So a lot of people don't know that certainly you can type notes in Evernote. I've already highlighted to you that we can put documents and scans into Evernote. So images it will hold, which is great for creatives, by the way. An image can be a picture of a receipt, but it can be an actual visual image also, really, really useful. And we can then type around that image. So we have context next to that image, which is a really good thing as well. You can forward at the premium level emails into Evernote and create notes from your emails. So a lot of people make the mistake of trying to project manage in their email. It's not a project manager.
No.
And it's a lot of the supporting documents that we need for projects, but it's not all of them. So it fails you when you can't marry those other things with those emails. So I'm forwarding emails into Evernote that are related to projects and filing them alongside the other project materials. This one is life-changing for people. I tell this story before, but when I finally, the hardest people to convert to your methodologies are your family members. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
yeah,
right? It's like, I finally got my brother interested in Evernote. And I knew I had him when I got a text from him that said, Web Clipper is dope. That's all it said. And do you know what the Web Clipper is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Web Clipper, a lot of people report as life-changing because Evernote's Web Clipper is a browser extension that you can put on any of the major browsers. You install it once and you log into your Evernote account, and then you're able to, with a button click, capture and retain any website within Evernote, which has a lot of advantages. Number one, you don't have to bookmark it. That's because when it captures it in Evernote, it retains the originating link back out to the website that it came from. So you can always get back there, but it's kept a copy of it for you within Evernote. And then of course, you're able to search. So we're back to search, and my reliance on search is you can search and retrieve. It will index everything that got clipped on that web page. So you don't have to remember the bookmark. You just have to remember that I was looking for this, and you can search it in Evernote and it'll come up. and then you can click it to get back to the website. So no more bookmarks, all in Evernote, and you can add it to project notebooks that might have other related materials.
Right, so that was going to be my follow-up question on that. So if I were to make a notebook, say to share with a community that I belong to, I made a web page for them the other day with useful links because people kept asking me for the same information over again.
Yeah.
So if I were to make a notebook in Evernote with all of that information, and then I shared that folder with people, what are the permissions? I mean, would they be able to change anything in that? Because I'd be afraid of losing that information myself.
Yeah, so Evernote actually has the ability to share either with Evernote users or not with Evernote users. And it's actually fairly comprehensive exactly how you do that. It varies at the current moment depending on if you're on Mac or Windows. It also, it can be complex, and the vocabulary isn't always straightforward for people in the interface. In fact, I have a whole entire module on sharing in a course that I have, an Evernote skills course that I have. It certainly can be something, it certainly can be done. People need to know how to do it the right way. But to let you know, it is possible to share publicly with people outside of Evernote using an individual note, which if all you have are a bunch of links and resources, that's a great use case for what's called a public link in Evernote. And I have a whole blog post about that where you can, that you can reference as well. Talking about public note links in Evernote. It's like a really, really detailed training on exactly how to accomplish that. And you can put branding in it. You can have hyperlinks, any web page functionality. It basically takes any note that lives in your account, makes it a public website link that you can share with select people, and they can't edit it. You can edit it in your source note within Evernote. They can view and interact with the data through any browser.
It sounds like if I start really using Evernote, I'm going to be getting rid of my G Suite that I pay for.
I use G Suite all the time. So just to clarify, G Suite's a very important part of my setup. I would say G Suite and Evernote are the things that I use. The trick is you have to have defined workflows for that. So I use Google, my tech suite is Google Apps. I'm using, Gmail. I still use, Google Sheets is a better tool than Evernote tables. So I'm using that. The key is Evernote actually has an official integration with Google. So if I create a Google Docs document, because that's what it's best designed to do, I am taking that share link from that document. You know how you can create the link to it or share it with other people, and I'm pasting that in my Evernote dashboard. So I have like a project management dashboard for each project. I say, here's all of the documents that I need in order to manage this project. I'll put that Sheets link in there, and then I can just touch it from my phone or from my Evernote dashboard to launch it natively in Google Apps. So it's really about workflow design and using the tool. Evernote's still a key part of that. It's my primary dashboard and my project management tool, but I'm still using that Google Apps suite to support in areas where it does a better, it's been designed specifically for that tool and that need. Can I tell you a use case for public links though? Because I think this would be a really great thing for you and for the audience is I use it when I do public speaking a lot. So I will actually make it the handout, and I will create a URL that points to that URL that Evernote creates, and then they have access to my website. I can make it look pretty. I can put all the links. I can put screenshots in there, all of these different things. It's a great tool for project management as well when you're trying to bring visual information to the equation. Being able to put that visual in an Evernote note and then have it render as a web page and be able to share that link with people, really helpful. So it's just another use case around the same process and tool that blog post will show you.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about how you're using it for project management?
Sure.
Just technically, what do you have set up or?
Yeah, so first things first, if I have a new project, let's say I'm redesigning a website or my website. Give me a project that would your audience.
That's great. Yeah. I'm sure we have creators doing web design. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm either working with a client or I'm redesigning let's just say I'm redesigning my own website. That was a pretty big project that I had to do. First thing I do, I create a notebook, website redesign. Okay. I start piling in to that notebook everything that I might possibly need. I'm not shy to create a lot of notes in a notebook. So I might web clip examples of sites that I like. By the way, the web clipper has a lot of options. I have a whole 30-minute lesson inside my skills course just on the web clipper because people don't realize how much functionality is built into it. I could actually capture a screenshot instead of all of the text. So, but sometimes like if it's a blog post, I just want the text, right? I don't want all those ads around it. If it's a website I like, I might want an actual screenshot showing the layout with the different ad elements in it. So I have the choice as a user of which way I want to use it. Right. I might be adding those assets. I might be adding photos that are of interest to me. I might be clipping and writing web copy that should be on there. I might be doing in like lucid charts. I might be using some flow charts and talking about the structure of my site and exporting that as a PNG file, adding that there. I have task lists of things that I'm going to do. I'm going to create a to-do list for my project. There's a lot of lists with checkboxes and things you can like click, checks, mark things off within Evernote. So I'm doing that. They have the ability to add a reminder to your note. So a feature I use a lot are the non-dated reminders. What that does is in essence pin a note to the top of the notebook. So it's kind of like taking a little sticky note and putting it on the cork board, and that's kind of like your table of contents. I'm consolidating everything related to that project. Maybe a quote from a vendor I'll add to that notebook as well. And then I'm managing it all within that space. Like really, it's the digital equivalent of taking those manila folders and having all of your materials in there, and you put them out on your desk and sort them around when you're working on it, and then you file them away, and your notebook's just there in Evernote when you're not. So does that help?
Yeah. So I find that I think best on paper, old-fashioned pen and paper. So is scanning sort of the only method, or taking the picture the only method? I've seen these notebooks for Evernote, but I can't really tell, like, you just scan those when you're done. It seems.
You scan them.
Yeah, so you don't really need a special notebook.
No, I'm trying out this little rocket book right now. Have you seen these? It's kind of a fun little tool.
Hard to tell.
It's called Rocket Book. And you have to use the pen that comes with it. There's a series of pens that come with it, but it's reusable paper. So you just write on it, and then you take, like when you're done with it, you take wet water and you wipe it off. And it's kind of cool because you can then use their app to send it to, you can see there's several little locations. I can define these locations, and I can call this Evernote and this Google Drive and this my email and all these different spots. And you just like shoot your data over to the spot you want it to go. Using these mobile phones to digitize is effortless these days. It's effortless. I mean, there's certainly, if you're a tablet writer and you have like an iPencil and things like that, there are solutions for just writing directly in Evernote. There's an app that Evernote owns called Penultimate, which is designed specifically for that and integrates directly with Evernote. But I have found, because Evernote OCR indexes handwriting, I just take a picture of my notes when I'm done, and I might batch scan that and do it on Fridays, for example. Then I can still find, and if I have the word in my handwriting in the note, it'll find, search, and retrieve it for me within Evernote. Even if you have terrible handwriting? Well, it has to be able to read your handwriting. All OCR indexes have to be able to read your handwriting. So you'd need to test it out. I can't, if you're doctor handwriting, I'm not sure if it's going to serve you, but, you could, there's ways around it too that could be around every note. I advocate, give it a meaningful note title. So if you said meeting notes from the summit with Stacey Harmon on Evernote, and you put that in the title, you typed it, then all of that information would become subject to search also. It's likely you're going to find it without having to search for the interior contents of your note.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go and just redo my entire, I have 100 notes. I only have 100 compared to your 30-something thousand.
Well, the place to start would be create some notebooks that are meaningful to you and start organizing the data that you have there in those notebooks, and just consider them a reference location or start a new project in there. Like, it can be as simple as that. And centralize. Understand that, Like, look, think about it as your dashboard. It is my digital desk. That's what it is. I used to sit down at a physical desk and pull out my manila folders and my notebook. I still keep the notebook. I too like to write a lot. So that's, you know, you don't have to give that up. The key is if you can digitize it, you can centralize it in Evernote. And if you centralize it in one tool that's powerful like Evernote, you're going to be chipping away at that 20% wasted time every week. I promise you.
Oh, I already see I'm chipping away at more than 20% because until now I've been typing. I've been copying over my notes into Evernote, typing them. I don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that. No, not at all.
So that's kind of an epiphany for me. I don't have to.
Well, and it can be that simple. You know, it's those little tiny moments that happen for everybody. You know, it's like, that's what I call an aha moment. You're like, oh yeah, this is a use case that could really make Evernote useful for me. And oh, I'm saving time by doing that. And so I actually think I shared with you that I have a free guide that helps people to get see what other people, because I've been doing this coaching and consulting for almost 8 years now, specifically on Evernote. So I hear what those moments are that help people go, oh yeah, this is why people like Stacey are so excited about Evernote. Because you probably experience this. You're like, what am I missing? I downloaded Evernote. I'm not why are there people who are so excited about Evernote? I call it the sushi effect. It's like you either like sushi. No, you don't like sushi. You either love sushi or you're just not into sushi at all, right? So there's this divide amongst people. And it's the same thing with Evernote. People are love Evernote, and the people that don't wonder what they're missing, and they need those light bulb moments. So I created a free guide where you can get those top 6, I think it's top 6 moments that I have that help people understand what the power of Evernote is and how to use it in a way that will really support their productivity. One thing to understand about Evernote is that you should be working off of the local desktop client. That's one of the tips in my guide, actually. Evernote's obviously a cloud-based software that you can access from evernote.com at any time. That's also not the strongest place to interact with it. Power users rarely, if ever, are going into Evernote Web. We're using it through the free local desktop app, which syncs to the cloud, and then the apps on our phone, which sync amongst all of it as well. When you have that system, you have a level of redundancy to your data that's living with your data in multiple places. It's also possible to export 100% of your notes through an export feature that puts your notes into either an HTML or an Evernote worthy format. And there's lots and lots of services that offer, migration techniques. It's part of Evernote's data philosophy that your data is yours, your data is exportable, and your data is private, which was a core consideration for me in choosing Evernote as my centralization. I mean, consider Gmail. They are reading all my emails and I'm getting ads dished up to me as a result of that. That is not happening with Evernote. And that was a core consideration for me. They've also, a year ago, had a change of senior leadership, and there have been some really exciting things going on behind the scenes as a result of that.
So I have another question. So you're talking about the security of it. So can you password protect notes? So
let me just talk generally about security. The first thing I like to state is I don't think any of them are secure. I think security is a farce, okay? And the IRS can't keep my data secure. Google's data is no more secure. Evernote's I don't consider it secure either. So I have that general philosophy. So I'm not here to convince anybody that it's a secure environment. Having said that, there are industry standards and leading edge companies, Google, Apple, Amazon, Evernote. Okay, they're using the latest and greatest server technology. They're hosted on Google backend servers. They have they have double, and they have authentication, to passcode authentication. And you can individually passcode certain notes. If they're text-based notes, you can add a level of encryption. They do have an encryption on all of the levels as well. And then you can passcode protect text-based notes on a note-by-note basis. It's not that practical to do so, but it is possible.
Right.
And it has transformed my life. I can work from anywhere. My office is with me in my back pocket, in my cell phone, for wherever I go. It's enabled me. I looked at my life one day when I realized I started how I work using Evernote is so dramatically different than how I worked when I was an employee in an office 15 years ago. it's night and day. It's really transformed how I work. And there was one point several years ago where I looked at my job and I said, Stacey, you've got a job that you can do from anywhere. Like, why aren't you? Like, my passion's travel, and that's what I like to do. And I'm like, I'm going to do that. And I found this company that kind of supports the ability to work remotely. And I just went to Bali for 5 weeks and worked from Bali and London. And I had my op for 5 weeks. I went to Miami for 4 weeks. You know, I just hop around. I take my computer with me. If I have the internet and power, I have the full functionality of my office. And that's the power of it. And this is what Evernote can do and is so good in supporting for self-employed and small companies. It's really can be the glue for all the systems you use and the dashboard for you to manage your business and personal life. I have them commingled in the same account. They are organized, but I have everything I need at my fingertips from my phone or my computer. And at the premium level, you even have it offline, which is key as well.
Yeah, love it. You had a free gift that you wanted to share with this audience.
It's the AHA guide first that I mentioned, where I think the place to start is to be getting some insight into kind of what are those foundational things that are going to help me to better use this platform. And so I've outlined a PDF that walks you through those and gives you screenshots and kind of a sampling to my teaching style, which is very detailed and no BS. It's like, do this, 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 and this. And it also teaches on both platforms because Evernote works on both platforms, but there are some variations in how that is rendered. So I'm sensitive to that and have provided solutions no matter what device you use. So I would suggest you start there, take a look at it. It's a good way to kind of get connected with me and find some of the other resources that I have as well. I really believe in giving a lot of free value and giving you guys an opportunity to flourish with the platform. And join my programs only if my teaching style and what I'm saying to you resonates with you. So start with my YouTube channel and with that free giveaway, and you'll be on your way.
Awesome. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Stacey.